All right, welcome back to another episode of Broswhoclose. We're here with Dan Stefels. Welcome, Dan.
Thanks so much, guys. Thanks so
I'm
much.
actually very excited. We asked
Yeah.
Dan last week, Dan, would you like to come? And he's like, yeah, fuck yeah, let's go.
It's my first time meeting Dan, and this dude is tall. How tall are you said?
6'6".
6'6".
Tall ass motherfucker. I met Dan actually a couple of years ago at Chairman's.
Yeah.
And I instantly liked him. I was like, we're going to be fucking friends.
I don't know if you remember the first time that we met, or not the first trip that we met together, and I was getting contact information, and you went into my phone to type your name in, and you're like, how many Saurabhs do you have on your phone?
I know.
Because I have like 4 Saurabhs that I know from my old life.
Yeah.
And he's like, how the hell do you have so many Saurabhs in your life? That's amazing.
That's what he told me, that he went to India. I'm like,
That's
damn,
funny.
like you're like a white and like a brown guy.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that too today. That's fun.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So Dan's a top producing agent. He actually runs a team out of the Niagara region. Really good guy. And I'm actually really excited to do this podcast because I'm actually here more so for me than for everyone else, right? Like
100%.
I'm here to learn myself and,
Yeah.
kind of go from there.
Absolutely. Love it.
So we'll just get kind of started. Just take us through your journey, Dan. Like, how did you get into it? What were you doing prior to that? How did you get into real estate? Give us all the juicy stuff.
Yeah, no, for sure. So I've always been a sales guy. So I started out kind of my professional career. I was working in restaurants for a long time, paying my way through when we first moved to Toronto. And then I started working for a business-to-business marketing company. It was a call center. And I was the 5th hire. Within 2-3 weeks, they had promoted me to manager because the owner wanted to go travel and sell. That was his whole job. He wanted to go sell. So we grew him from 5 to 15 in about a year. And I moved all of his contracts. We had big contracts with tech companies, so it was Siemens and Microsoft and stuff like this. And we moved them from month-to-month contracts to longer-term contracts. And one of the things that I learned in that process was that the clients recognize and appreciate the value, but they also wanted to understand the longevity and they wanted to understand consistency. And so one of the things that I pitched them on was building long-term consistent relationship with a call center, which is not a normal thing, right? Most of these things are my experience anyways, month to month. One of the clients there was Grant Thornton, which is one of the big accounting firms. I went from there and I went and started Grant Thornton working for them directly and was with them for 3 years in Canada, kind of moved up, progressed up, and I finished my role there as a senior director in charge of all sales operations. So while I was a sales guy, we were in charge of all the big national accounts, any big pursuit that the firm had across the country, I was in charge of. So I had an office in Halifax, in Toronto, and Vancouver, so I traveled all the time between those places, and we went after the biggest clients that we could get. We started a national accounts program where we said, okay, we got to get inroads into TD or into McCain or whatever, the Jim Pattison group. And we kind of built all that stuff out. While I was there, I decided that I needed to kind of get a little bit of a professional bent to my educational side. So, because I had never just finished university. So I had gone a couple of times, but this was just never my jam. I got married young and it was just never I had to make money, I had to work, right? I had to grind. So decided to go to apply. So I applied to Queen's and I got into their executive MBA program. I don't know how the hell I did it still to this day, massive imposter syndrome, but I killed the GMATs and I had great interviews. And because I'd owned a bunch of businesses already by that point, they're like, you know what? We'll figure your way out through the program. And inside the program, I don't know how you guys know about this, but Queen's runs their program in like a team-based model. And so where, you have Ivy that runs a case study model, Queen's runs as a team-based model. Anyway, so inside the team, we got great, smart people around me, and I was the sales guy, and I did the presentations and shit like that, but we had brilliant people, and some of my closest friends to this day are still part of that group. But one of the things we did was we developed this project, a global project, and that I led, and it brought us all over the world. And I kind of recognized, I'm like, man, this global thing would be amazing. So we were all over the world, our team. And then as I kind of started finishing up, my kind of internal sponsor at Grant Thornton was one of the old CEO. And he made a bunch of introductions for me to firms all over the world. And so I went and interviewed in China, I interviewed in Australia, and I'll never forget, I had an interview with the Indian firm, and I was in the Sydney Harbor on the boat, and Vishesh called me, and we talked for like an hour and a half on my Canadian BlackBerry in Australia. on Sydney Harbor. It was friggin' spectacular. Anyway, so we're on the boat and we have this long conversation. I go back to the hotel room and I call my wife. And she was all curious how the interview went in Australia, because it's Australia, who wouldn't want to live there? And I said, and then I had this real interesting call from India. Silence. And she's like, oh.
You want to fucking go to India? Fuck
Yeah,
this.
that was a tough one. Anyway, so she said, well, there I'd have to go see. I'm ready to get on a plane tomorrow to go to Australia, but I got to see India first. So anyway, so we started on the path. We did a look-see visit. We ended up for 3 years. At the end of the 3 years, they offered me a partnership inside the firm. And I was living in a suburb of Delhi at the time. And they said, okay, we'll offer you a partnership, but we got to move to Mumbai. And basically, they're going to add a zero to my salary, which was already pretty good. And my wife said, do what you're going to do. I'm taking the kids going back home.
Wow.
And so I'm like, hey, guess we're not staying in India. But I loved the experience there. I mean, some incredibly difficult things, but some amazing, amazing things. So we came back, and as I was leaving, I made a pitch to some of the other Grant Thornton firms to take on global account management for Grant Thornton International, based out of London. The proposal didn't land. They ended up doing it with probably a 15th of the revenue that I had, or a 15th of the budget that I had proposed. I'm like, that's never going to work, and it didn't. Anyways, but we came back to Canada, and I started working for Hitachi, which is a big Japanese company, and they're a tech group. So they've got a couple of big tech divisions, and so I was working for one of them. And we started up selling software, CRM specifically, in Canada. So it's Hitachi Solutions America was the kind of the corporate head office out of California. And so I started hunting whales. I was carrying a bag, flying all over the country, and had interviews, and not interviews, but I guess sales calls with OMERS and RBC and CVC and Stantec and Ledcor and Pattison, all over the country. I think a lot of tech companies look at Canada as like the 51st state, and their expectation is like, oh, well, it's big enough. It's about the same size as Ohio, so we can expect revenue from Ohio. The problem is, you guys don't know, I know you know tech. People don't buy tech in Canada, right? The process is so long and they're so cheap, and it's like we're gonna do 15 pilots. Anyways, so it became real challenging, and they loved the idea of my pipeline with all these huge companies, but they're like, but when are they gonna buy? And I'm like, well, I told you at the beginning, it's like an 18-month window before these guys start a process. And because of Brookfield was a great example. So I identified an opportunity at Brookfield that nobody else knew about, no other reseller, or even Microsoft didn't even know. I'm like, all right, I identified it. I shepherded through. They ended up, after I left, they had still not purchased. And it was like 2 years later that they finally made the purchase. But it was and then it was like a $12, $14 million project, but it was a huge amount of time. Anyways, from there, we did an acquisition. I didn't get along with my new boss. And I'm like, I think I need to make a change. So I was living in St. Catharines at the time, which is where my parents live. I went down and we have dinner with them every week, whatever. And I said, hey, so I've got a couple of job opportunities. I said, I'm going to leave Hitachi. I'm going to go with one of these other places. So there's a startup in San Francisco, a tech company that was a startup that I had a great relationship with the founders at. And so they offered me a partnership there. And then there was another big accounting firm in Chicago that offered me a similar role that I was playing previously. And I'll never forget. So my mom, Katie, she sat down and she said, Dan, you got to try this real estate thing. She said, I think you're really, really good at this.
And your mom was already an agent at that point.
She was at that point probably about 10 years,
Right.
And successful.
Yeah.
And she had kind of one big builder client that she did 90% of her business was out of the builder, but very, very loyal. And Katie is a spectacular salesperson, and I always describe her as being unconsciously competent. She's so good at making people feel like, and I always say $1 million clients. Nowadays, everybody's $1 million client because real estate prices are stupid. But back then, $1 million was a lot of money, especially down in Niagara. So she had this uncanny approach. Anyway, so she said, you got to try this. And my wife was against it. Oh my God, it was crazy. She's like, why do you want to be a real estate agent for? She's like, everybody hates real estate agents. She's like, why don't you get into insurance? Like, what are we talking about?
Because everybody loves insurance agents.
Exactly.
I was in India for 3 years. God damn you.
So one thing after the other with this guy.
Exactly. So, so she was really, really against it. And, real estate agents have a reputation because there's a lot of bad apples out there, right? Yeah. We all know them. But she said, I basically convinced her. I said, look, I don't want to just be a real estate agent. Not that there's anything wrong with being just a real estate agent, but I want to be a business owner. I've been an entrepreneur, had a bunch of businesses. I said, we're going to take this, but I want to build a company. And then, so that's why I sat down with Katie and I said, okay, so I'm fine to do this. I think we should give it a shot. I know I can sell. I've been selling my whole career, but I want to build a company. I'm not just interested in selling houses. I want to build a company. And I said, so I want access to the war chest to make the investments we need to make in order to grow this thing.
And at this point, your mom was a solo agent. She had a great client list.
Yeah, she had a, and she will tell you the same thing. She had a long client list that she did nothing with, which is, I think most agents have that problem where they've done business for 10, 12, 15 years, whatever, and they have nothing, right? They'll maybe send them a Christmas card or something like that.
So now you're a team of two, right? You get started in real estate. What year is this?
Oh my God. This would have been 11 years ago.
11 years ago. So 11 years ago, then
2014? Does that sound right? Yeah, 2014.
Yeah. Same year that actually a year after I started. I started 2015.
There you go.
So now you're a team of two. It's you and your mom. And so how do you go from, take us to that journey of the next 10 years. So how do you go from there to, a team of two people to now, building out Compass Estates?
Absolutely, for sure. So we started with, as you say, a team of two. So when I started, we let go her assistant, and basically I became an assistant while I got my license. So there's a loophole in the real estate world where you can actually work directly for a builder and sit open houses for a builder without a license.
Right. That's right.
And so that's what I started doing. I sat open houses for the builder. I would do Saturday, Sunday, and I would do 2 afternoons, evenings a week. So I was always there, and just plug my laptop in and I work away. So I became her licensed assistant, probably the most overqualified assistant that she'll have ever had. But I'm like, I got to learn the business, right? And the only way to learn it is by doing it. And because she did a significant volume, she was probably doing 40 deals a year, which is a lot of deals.
Yeah. Of course.
And so there's tons of paperwork and tons of negotiation and tons of everything. So I did everything. I wrote all of her emails. Like, I did everything. The way an assistant, everybody's dream assistant would be is like, oh my God, I just show up and everything's done. And I get a list of, here's the 15 things I got to do today. And that's what she just goes and does. So we started that, and it took me, I'm going to say probably 2 or 3 years. We started out I'm happy to share, we started out a 75-25 split. And my name, she was gracious enough to include my name on everything as soon as I got my license, of course, and worked her tails off. And I open house like crazy. And that's been my claim to fame the whole way through. Is I still open house every single weekend.
It's very interesting, right? Because the last podcast we were just talking about
open
that.
houses.
We're talking about open houses and how critical open houses are.
Especially in this market where people are not really getting business, and you go, look, if you don't have listings, then ask agents in the office that have listings and go sit open houses.
100%. Totally agree.
I want to ask you, so you went from a pretty heavy background in tech and then these other Hitachi and these big companies, and then you transitioned to real estate. So you brought a lot of knowledge with you, right, of like systems and tools. So what, and your mom was, you said, great salesperson, but she lacked system and tools. I think you shared this before the podcast.
Yeah.
Did you see yourself already like, okay, these are the changes I'm going to make when I get into real estate? And like, how did you go about from when you started to putting those things in place?
Absolutely. Great question. And I've actually, done this with some other agents in the interim. So before I started, I helped her do a mind map. And so we went to a big whiteboard and we started drawing out every single task that she did. And I said, okay, what can we automate? And what can we outsource, and what do you have to do, and what do you want to do? And so we made this big spider web of activities, and we started color coding them. Right, so this is what you have to do. There's no other option. This is, you can get an assistant to do this. We can get the office to do whatever it was, and we mapped it all out that way. So that's how she started, and that basically was her job description for her assistant when she started. And then I took that same mind map and I said, okay, now that I'm here, great, but I don't want to be sitting in the office all day doing admin work. Right, we got to find ways to automate. So definitely from then. Her approach to a client list was an Excel spreadsheet that she updated at the end of the year to send out Christmas cards to. Right. And that was it, right? We didn't do anything else. And I'm like, we are missing here. And so I started coaching with Buffini very early on. And, props to Brian Buffini there. And I was coaching with those guys. And I was, calls, notes, and pop-bys. And I always describe it, it's blocking and tackling. Like as a new agent, learning what you got to do to sell a house is key. But he's big on systems and processes as well. All the coaching guys have to be because they sell their systems and processes. So that's what they do. But that was where we started. And I said, okay, so every little thing that we took, I'm like, okay, well, how do we create some piece of technology that we can help automate this with, whether that's, email blasts, which you'd never done before, or call lists or whatever it was all real rudimentary because as much as I was techie, I was a sales guy, right? Like I didn't write anything. I didn't do any of the tech. I just understood what was possible. And we started evaluating CRM systems. And obviously we grew that side of the tech side of the business.
Yeah. And so you started with her, and how long did it take for you to make that transition over and then get things systematized?
Absolutely. Great question. So it was funny. So it probably took 3 or 4 years. And then, of course, the world fell apart.
Yeah.
During COVID.
No, before that, right?
Oh, the
2017.
Oh,
Oh,
of
right,
course,
right,
yes.
Right? Like it was a friggin' disaster.
Yeah.
And so by that point, I just kind of got my feet underneath me. I'm like, okay, I feel like I know what I'm doing. And the world falls apart.
Yeah.
Again, still, whatever. So it kind of brought things back to the basics. I was starting to get a little bit of an ego, and I'm like, yeah, this is pretty good. I'm pretty good at this. And then, of course, everything falls apart. So we had probably by that point, and I measured kind of the growth of our journey based on how big of a pot the builder was responsible for. And so we probably got him down to about 80, 85%. But then when the world fell apart, it went back to almost 100% because nobody was doing anything. And I don't know if you guys remember those days, but it was rough. Right? Yeah. So it was after that we came out of that and we kind of got our feet underneath us, and then COVID hit. And so during COVID, and I hope I'm not the only one that was like this, but I thought I was a fucking genius, right? Everything I did was unbelievably successful. Every idea I had was like, oh my God, I'm the smartest person to ever live.
Yep.
And I hired a bunch of staff, and I'm like, oh, we're never going to stop. I'm going to be a millionaire every month.
Yeah.
It was crazy. But that's actually, ironically, during that process is when I'm like, okay, so now we need to systematize everything because my expectation was we're going to be selling 200, 300 houses a month. Yeah. So what do I got to do to make this system better? Right.
Yeah.
And so that's when I started. So it was right at kind of at the after COVID hit and everybody was scared shitless, nobody knew what they were doing. And then when the market all of a sudden reacted to it, especially in Niagara, because people are leaving condos in Toronto and they're like, well, I want a yard, I want water view, I want freedom, I want elbow room. And so it was massive down in our area, obviously. But we tripled in property values in a lot of areas, right?
That's crazy,
it was
man.
crazy. There was a whole interesting backstory on that one. But on the systems and processes side, so I built out this idea that I'm like, okay, so we've got pre-sale, during sale, and then post-sale support. And so I identified jobs and processes for each of those areas. And then I hired people in each one of those areas. And we built standard operating procedures, and I put KPIs, and I hired consultants to put all that stuff together because I'm like, this has to be replicable. Now, we never got to our 100 or 200 houses a month. Shocking. But we put all those systems and processes in place. And then we underpinned it with what we thought at the time was technology. So we started out with Follow Up Boss. I did it because I sold CRM. I did a very in-depth evaluation of different CRM options out there. We landed on Follow Up Boss. We were one of the early adopters of it, and to the point where we could call them and say, hey, we need you to make this change.
Yeah.
And they would on the phone make the change to Follow Up Boss for us. It was crazy. But we made that change. And then, it was a matter of, because I had mapped all these systems and processes out already, it was a matter of, okay, well, where do we need to plug these things in? And that's so from a system process perspective, it was kind of in the middle of COVID, probably when I should have been selling more to make more money.
Yeah.
But I just expected that, the world was going to keep like this.
And I think a lot of teams who look at, I think during COVID, a lot of these teams got systems, including us. We got literally all our systems and processes in place during COVID.
Yeah.
And it was the same problem because we just thought that, this gravy train would just continue riding and we just have to have processes and systems in place to be able to sell like shit ton of real estate.
Yeah.
Which is which not in hindsight, it's a great thing because those systems and processes helps us now.
Yeah.
And we're on top of our stuff because we have systems and processes in place.
Yeah, we're talking about this in the episode before this one, how a lot of agents, they fear technology in a way, right?
Yeah.
Because they're like, okay, like we have an agent in this office. He just lives on Excel, right? You know who I'm talking about. He's a chairman.
Yeah.
And then he, we were talking one day and he goes, yeah, this is what I use and it's worked. I'm like, great. I'm like, but what else could you do if you had the right systems in place, right? But I think a lot of it, when I really dig down into talking to these agents, they have this fear of like, I don't understand this, so I don't want to mess with it.
Yeah.
Or it's going to stop my business. So like, do you feel like a lot of agents have that fear? Like because you are big into recruiting and you want agents on your team and then the brokerage. How big of a role do you think the systems plays in agents' fear and then wanting to adapt to changes?
Absolutely. So I think I would even take the question from a slightly different angle is there are agents out there who are real estate agents. And then there are agents out there who are business owners, right? And those are two very, very distinct
100%.
buckets.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with either bucket. They're just very different buckets.
Yeah.
And so a real estate agent is going to sell a ton of houses. And I'm happy to have real estate agents on my team. Like they serve an absolutely critical role on teams and brokerages and for the general public. I think that those folks, my experience with those folks has been that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I've been doing it the same way I have for this many years and it worked. Why would I do something different? Versus an entrepreneur who looks at it and says, if there's a better way to do it, why wouldn't I at least try it?
Yeah.
Right? It might not land. It might not work.
Right.
There might be a better option, but at least you got to open it up. And I often describe this with my kids, and we talk about it being context, right? When you look at how much you understand as defined as how I define as context is like a glass, and you can fill water into the glass. But if you don't have more context, you don't know more information, you can only ever store that much. So the only way to get a bigger context is have more information and more education, right? And so the bigger a cup you get, the more stuff you can fit inside it.
Yeah.
And the more you know you don't know.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. And that for me is the lion's share of it. I was talking earlier this week with another chairman's guy, and he was describing this whole pie that, you know, probably 4 or 5% of something. There's maybe 8% you don't know. But then there's like the 90 that you know that you don't even know you don't know.
Yeah.
So true.
Right.
Man.
It's overwhelming what you don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true.
I kind of want to segue out to 2025, right? Like, I just feel like as agents, like we're constantly evolving, and you're just one of those we constantly evolved. You're a business, and you're not afraid of change. You're not afraid of trying new things. And what tech tools are you using? I know we talked about Sid and I talked about in the previous episode. We've got a lot of AI tools that we use in our business currently. So how have the Compass Estates leveraged some of those new tools into your business?
Absolutely. And so, AI is this bucket, right?
Yeah.
Like I've been trying to find AI and answers to AI for probably 18 months now. And so another chairman's guy, he had introduced, these AI callers and AI bots, and we've been using that through Sync. We had used Raya. Like we tried a bunch of these different things before. I actually had one of the people on my team, my ops manager, she learned how to code AI because I'm like, everybody talks about this, but nobody can give me any answers. Everybody's like, there's this idea out there. And so we spend an enormous amount of money and time and effort trying to build this stuff because you have all these talking heads, some real estate agents, but all geared towards realtors are like, AI is going to do all of these things for you. I'm like, awesome. Where do I sign up?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, you got to do these 15 different tools and all these different things. And I remember at a chairman's mastermind, and Tom Story, who I love, he did a presentation on AI, and I asked a question of him in the meeting. I'm like, okay, Tom, I love it. This is amazing. But how much of this is vaporware and how much of this is actually happening? And he was like, well, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But it isn't happening now. So I was frustrated. But and just like you guys, I have, as a team lead and as a selling realtor, I got 10 jobs I got to do, right? And I do 9 of them okay or poorly depending on the day, and I maybe do one thing well. I'm like, I don't know technology, right? I just don't. So, when we had a conversation about Agent Hub and Lead Caller and a lot of the marketing automation stuff that's being built out, it was like, well, if there's a way that this can be done better than what I'm doing now, then of course we're having a conversation. So now what I do, so we've been using Agent Hub at Lead Caller for only a few weeks now, but it's become it has almost replaced, so I don't have the role anymore, but a marketing manager that I had. And it's like, so they would run Facebook ads and do A/B testing. They would run lead generation campaigns. They would run telemarketing with our ISAs. And we've had 7 different ISAs over the years, 7 of them.
Yeah.
I've had in-house, I've had outsourced, I've had professional. I had a professional voice actor I hired a professional voice actor because I'm like, maybe that's the problem. Maybe that's the reason this isn't working. And I had American, Canadian, in-house, outsource, everything. I've tried all these different options, and it never had any success. So I spent lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of money on all this stuff to get no results, 0 results, never even a listing appointment. And so when you guys approached me and said, "Hey, we got this cool idea, this thing," and I remember actually what happened was. Saurabh said, I'm looking for this new I'm looking at hiring this new ISA. Can you get on the phone with them and give me some feedback? And I'm like, obviously, whatever. I'm happy to do whatever to help. And so it took a little bit to connect it because I was missing the call and blah, blah, blah. Anyways, because I'm like, anyway, so I picked up the phone finally, had a conversation. And it was funny because as I was finishing the call, I was kind of joshing around with him. I'm like, because obviously it's you guys, right? And I knew that it was you guys. And so I kind of shooting the shit with him a little bit. And then, but it didn't take. And I'm like, well, that was weird. Are they kind of a soulless person you guys hiring? Anyways, so got off the phone and obviously immediately you called me and now I understand why you immediately called me. But it was like, that's the best AI conversation I've ever had, right? And like I said, I've explored this before. So it was the best AI conversation I ever had. And as soon as you said, well, that was AI, my first thing is like, well, I want it.
Yeah,
Right?
that's what I wanted.
It was that evening. I'm like, great.
Yeah.
I want it now. Like, how do I do this? What do I want? I got to do it now.
Yeah.
And then now we've been using it for, like I say, for 3 weeks and we've gone through, I think I looked at the numbers. We've called 12 or 1,300 client contacts.
Wow.
It's been crazy. We've got 8 or 10. I did the numbers. I think it's probably 10 where my team has qualified them as actual opportunities.
That's awesome.
And we've got at least 30 who have said, sorry, we already bought with somebody else. Which is, I mean, it sucks and it's soul crushing to know I spent all this money on these leads that we don't follow up on because who's got the time?
Right.
And it's nobody's not blaming anybody. It's just what it is. But there are real active deals out there that I'm missing as a result of this. So anyway, so yeah, this evening we've got one of our biggest listing CMAs that we've had probably in the last 4 years.
That's awesome, bro. I just have to say, for people watching, Dan is such an action taker,
Oh my
right?
God.
I remember when we were
Oh my
in the
God.
mastermind. First of all, Dan's like, that's why he's such a successful entrepreneur because you're very decisive, and the best entrepreneurs make quick decisions and don't change their mind. You know what's that saying? There's a saying about it. You know, you make decisions quick and you don't change them that quickly, right? Yes, there's hire slow, fire fast, but there's also you make the quick decisions. and then
Branson.
Yeah.
Make every decision as fast as you can.
Yeah.
You could fix it later.
Yeah, fix it
but
later.
make it now and be done with
Make it now. And I remember we were doing this mastermind and I was kind of talking about our Agent Growth Hub CRM. And then while in the mastermind, Dan texts me. He goes, obviously I'm in. as I'm pitching it. I'm like, I love this guy because he's such an action taker. We're the same, right?
Yeah.
We're like, when we like something, we believe in it. We're like, no, let's do it. We're like, because we know we want to implement it right away. Because it goes back to what you said, which is, you got to see if there's a better way to do something.
100%.
Whether it's something that we have or somebody else has a solution to, right? Like even the Agent Growth Hub is a culmination of a lot of different things we tried and tested over the years.
Sure.
And then we finally came to, right?
Yeah.
And so, but it's a combination of making decisions quick and also being able to, adapt to things, right? And not be afraid of taking action and then implementing. The 30 deals that you lost, even though it sucks, it's data that you have now
100%.
that you can use and go, okay, those are 30. We're going to make sure we don't miss those 30 anymore, right?
Yeah.
And the ISAs, man, like we had the same issues. One thing with ISAs is that what we realize is that the consistency matters more than anything. Because I come from a call center background like you, right? And managing call center employees and teams. And I've worked in call centers and boiler rooms. And I know that at the end of the day, everything is a numbers game, right? Make 100 dials, you get this many people that answer, this many appointments that you get, this many conversions.
Yep.
And so with that idea, we hired ISAs in-house and overseas. The problem with that was it was always inconsistent because now we have to manage the ISAs.
Yep.
Okay, do we hire a manager? Okay, that's another person on payroll, right? And then listen to the calls and then giving them feedback. Then they're sick. And then they need Christmas holidays if they're overseas. There's a time difference. And so when we figured out this AI thing, we knew that we had to just make it consistent. If it just dials consistently, even with little glitches and errors here and there, it's going to do the job it's supposed to and then bring to us opportunities that didn't exist before.
100%. I think that's where, and that's going to be key, right? I'm super excited, like just to see like how this year goes, and I think we have a game now. We've got like 4 or 5 people within the within our you know the again beta testers, and we're trying to see like who converts the first one first.
Some of us are working harder than others, but. But one of the things, and so I was actually with somebody else, and I was showing them the outcome of the call. It was like a 6.5 minute call that Alex from Compass Estates made, right? And it was, and I didn't pick it on purpose. It was serendipitous that I picked it, but it was somebody who obviously English wasn't their first language, and the profile that we used for Alex, it's a younger female, very Canadian accent, right? And so they were going through the conversation, and there's and there's pauses and delays, and then the guy on the phone was like, "Can you speak slower?" And she spoke slower. It was amazing. But and we end up booking an appointment, right?
Awesome.
And so I'm hoping that we're going to get something, obviously, right? But for me, 30 deals that we've missed out on is what it is. There's enough to go around for everybody, and obviously those agents need to eat too. But for me, it's all about not missing anymore, but having the ISA as kind of part of the whole stack, because it's only one piece of the puzzle. So the AI, and one of the things that I really appreciate about what Alex does and kind of what Agent Growth Hub is built for us is all they need them to do is put their hand up. Right. Once they put their hand up, I'm not going to pretend that AI is going to be closing these things. Right. All they need hand up, and then my team, who I've trained really well, they're going to go out and close them. I don't want them to close because AI is only going to screw it up. I want them to say, I'm interested in real estate like now. Perfect. Now we're going to talk to you.
Yeah,
that's awesome, man. And I'm super excited. So, I'm super excited to see where this takes us. I'm super excited to see how better it becomes. It's already become so much better than compared to where it was last year. But I want to segue into this one last thing is, what advice, if somebody out there, if an agent out there is not looking to be being the top 1%, agent, maybe they're struggling at that $150,000 GCI and they want to really become the top 1%. Like what one advice would you have for them?
Absolutely. So I think there's a couple things that for me that resonate. And so, I think trying to go it alone is going to be hard.
Yeah.
Right? So one of the things that I appreciate most about Royal LePage, and one of the reasons I'll be with the brand indefinitely, is because this community of the chairman's folks is so strong. The amount that I learned from you guys and our peers far exceeds any real estate conference I'll ever go to. Because these are super successful people that are already doing this stuff. So what I would tell somebody who's in that kind of, and I would say up to 200 grand GCI, it's like you're getting to that barrier and you're selling your time, right? And your profitability is going to be limited because your context is only what your context is. You don't know how to do any more. So what I would strongly recommend is partnering up with somebody who's already really successful, because I don't know anybody that sits around the table at these chairman events who wouldn't be like, yeah, of course I'm happy to help you out. Maybe not in the exact same market, but on other markets we're like, of course I want to help you out. If there's a way that we can both jointly benefit, we can collaborate, of course they're going to be doing that. So I think it's a big part of it is partnering up. The second part of it is do this mind map and where do you have these gaps, right? So not to plug Agent Hub again, but I mean, if there's a matter of where your deal's coming from, data and information is everything, right? So when we started this whole thing, we were looking, we get repeat and referral is a huge thing for us, but outside of repeat and referral, open houses is the vast majority of our business, right? Massive. I'm going to say of our new business, 80%.
Wow. That's crazy.
Open houses, easy 80%, probably more than 80%. Obviously we want to get ISAs and kind of doing the lead generation and kind of eat into that because it's way less time intensive. But you got to be doing the things. You got to be out places. And we had somebody join our team recently, and we've got a couple more joining next week. their big thing is, I don't know how to make any more money. They said, we're capped out. I don't know how to make more money. Well, I know how to make more money, but you got to change how you do your business, right? You got to be smart. You got to put systems and processes in place, because if you just run around like a chicken with your head cut off, you're only going to get so far, and you're going to start making mistakes, and you're going to feel like all you do is work. And it's not a sustainable model from my perspective.
Yeah, it's a very interesting point, right? Because I think when I first started, I was the same thing. I was in a team, believe it or not, for first 30 days.
Sure.
I did
All 30 days.
30 days, man. 30 days. I was in that corner office right over there, and I saw my team lead 0 times in those 30 days.
Yeah.
I did 4 deals my first month.
Yeah.
Nothing to his help, and I was like, what the fuck am I paying like this guy for, right?
Yeah.
And there was nothing there. It's just because he'd asked me to join his team, and he'd said I'll give you a better split. But like now, I truly understand the value of a team. So had I been with the right team at that point, I think my learning curve would have been so much shorter, right?
Right.
And all the team members that join us now, I feel like their learning curve is truly, widely shortened. They do deals from day one.
Yeah.
They get fed. They get leads. They get coaching, mentoring, all of that stuff from very get go. So the learning curve for the next few years is going to be massive compared to where you and I started. Right?
Yeah, Dan, what questions would you suggest an agent asks who's interviewing teams, for example, right? Like, what are some things they need to be asking the team lead or that the team structure has?
Yeah, 100%. So I'm a big mentor, believer in mentorship. So anybody who's going to talk to a team, and especially if you're at that kind of 100, and I'm seeing this all the time. So we don't hire everybody that comes along our way. I've got a waiting list of people who are looking to come on board because they're like, hey, you guys are doing really well. We want to join that. But how I would always look at it is recognize what your own gaps are, your deficiencies, and if you've got the wherewithal to be able to define those for yourself, recognize and ask the question. Okay, so here's what I don't do well. How can you specifically help you? So don't say come to a team leader and say, hey Dan, so I want to join your team because you're really successful. Awesome. What are you great at? What are you terrible at?
Right.
Because if you're great at the same thing that we're all great at and terrible at, that's not the. It'll help because a rising tide raises all ships, but the impact is not going to be outsized. Where I want to find out is that now the other part of it for me is, so it's that self-diagnosis, a self-assessment. The second part of it is how much time are you going to get from the team leader, right? So everybody's got different splits and different structures and da-da-da-da-da. So one of the things I do with all of my team members is we have a one-on-one once a week. Now, not with my partners, but with kind of associates and senior associates on the team. And at one-on-one, so an hour a week, your time, we talk about 3 things: money now, money later, and then everything else, right? What is it we need to be doing, but in that time to ramp up what their value proposition is? What is it that they need to be doing better in order to close more deals? And in the situations and circumstances, I'll do role playing if we need to. I'm not a huge role play guy. I know there's a lot of folks that are big role player fans. I like to have people come on board that are already there, but I want to show it to them. So I'd rather have them listen to me on the phone or go to Follow Up Boss and listen to my calls, come with me to appointments, as opposed to role playing in the office, because I find it a little bullshit thing. I would rather have them listen to me on a phone with somebody who's real or come into an appointment with me as somebody who's real. Because just like you guys, when I sit down at the kitchen table, I'm pretty great.
Yeah. Shit happens.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty great. And you can't replicate that in an environment where you're role playing. I've never been successful at it.
Yeah.
That's great,
That's
man.
awesome,
So
man.
where can people find you?
In Niagara. Dan from Niagara.
Dan from Niagara.
Yeah. So Compass Estates is the name of the team. We do a lot. I would say we probably do almost 25% of our business is referral based.
Okay.
So we have a lot of referrals. And we've got so I play a key role in all the referrals. So it depends on situations and circumstances. To give you a quick example, somebody says, hey, Dan, we got a buyer that wants to move down to Niagara. I'll go with them for the first day, and then one of the team will go with the second or third or fourth or however many days they come down. But then I handle the negotiation at the end. So we try to kind of keep that tie together. And if it's a listing, I take the listing on myself. So I want to make sure we've got that kind of close tie. Also, I do a lot of over communication with people when they give a referral, because I'm like, what's going on, what's happening.
Perfect.
And we also have a lifetime referral system. So if you send me a person, however many deals they do, you get paid on all of them.
Nice.
So not just the first one. So we're on Instagram, Facebook, at Compass Estates.
That's awesome. Thanks, Dan. This is great. Again, Broswhoclose. Where can they find us?
YouTube, Broswhoclose, Instagram, Broswhoclose, TikTok, Broswhoclose, and anywhere else, any new system that comes out, probably going to be on Broswhoclose.
That's awesome. Appreciate
Dan,
it, guys. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, man. Dan, good to see you, brother.
This is you.